check your YouTube and see if you're live?
We are live on YouTube, but we see a black screen. Oh, there we are. We are live on YouTube. We are live on TikTok. We are almost live on Facebook. And now I'm going to launch LinkedIn. They'll let me go early, yeah? Go live. Okay, we're going live on LinkedIn. We're live on... We're live, but it's a black screen on LinkedIn. Oh, that's because I got to add that stream. Okay, now we're live on LinkedIn. We're live on Facebook.
Oh,
There you go. And we're
you're
live
just
on YouTube.
all
Okay.
kinds of prep today.
Except for streaming from my computer. You should be live on YouTube.
Yep, we're live on YouTube. There's a delay on YouTube, but
Yeah, just don't look
normal.
at it.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm gonna stop trying to stream from here. I'm just gonna record this.
So we gotta
And
let's
sure we can hear
I'm gonna have
everything.
this focused on me. Just so I can stay in all of our other cameras. Okay. So TikTok is just me, and everything else is us. And the mics, these are our mics.
Yes.
All right. Instant Print USA is watching us from TikTok land. And I think we're good. I think we're live everywhere. And then we'll start the audio. And then we'll dive in. Where's that broadcasting from?
My YouTube,
Nice. All right.
some other little behind the scenes stuff.
Okay, I'm live if you guys are ready.
Yep. We are ready.
Okay, one sec. Thought I had the water somewhere.
Whoa.
There's nobody else here. I just close that curtain because it looks cool that way.
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
All right.
Yeah,
You guys are ready.
Here we go. All right. We're going to actually start the podcast now in 3. Actually, let me get a drink of water before we do this.
We do have Wi-Fi, right?
Yeah.
ES Audio Recording Studios. Let me know when you're ready for the password.
Go for it.
It is uppercase. No, it's uppercase ESA. $sign.
Hello, sir. ESA
$sign.
$sign
2017.
Sweet.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay, now I'm good.
Cool. So we have all the cameras on us, but we will focus on this camera here. We have TikTok over here. We have YouTube, Facebook, and LinkedIn here. You have your YouTube there, and then we have the main stream here. So now, now we're going to do the audio.
Could we want more attention?
All right. So we'll start audio in 3, 2, 1. Welcome to Mental Fitness with life coach Tommy and spiritual coach Daniel. How are you doing?
I'm doing well, sir. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. Today is a good day.
It's been a while.
It's been a minute. Yeah. So we did, I believe it was 5 or 6 modules. 6 modules.
6 modules.
And then we had to take a long hiatus because I was dealing with some deep health issues since the end of January, beginning of February. We're getting closer to figuring out what the heck is going on. But the good news is I've had 2 weeks of wellness. So just riding the wave. Give a quick background. It's a very long story. I've seen 7 doctors, including a gastroenterologist, a rheumatologist, an ear, nose, and throat specialist. So long story short, woke up feeling like really bad January 31st. Fast forward, was having polyarthritic symptoms, nausea, fatigue, just all sorts of nightmarish symptoms. Couldn't get out of bed, all this stuff. And so now we've locked it down. It's either spondylitis or Still's disease.
Wow.
Both of them are very rare. I have what's called the rheumatologist finally showed me that I have a rare genetic marker called HLA-B27, which basically amplifies the immune system. So I have like a super immune system, which is a problem because it means the body is attacking itself. So that's what the rheumatologist says theoretically is causing all the joint pain, the nausea, the fatigue. And then Still's disease is a very similar thing, but it's more spondylitis is autoimmune. Still's disease is anti-inflammatory. They're both have so many similar symptoms. The problem with Still's disease is it's called a diagnosis of exclusion. You have to basically rule out every single other thing before you can get a Still's disease diagnosis. So if it's not spondylitis, it's Still's disease.
So basically, you're saying you just couldn't be like the rest of us. You had to go find something very unique, make the doctors make the doctors work off that education and student loan.
Yes.
Well,
pretty much,
I'm
yeah.
honestly, I was concerned for you for a while and worried, and but I'm glad to see you. It's
Same.
I'm trying to keep it cool, but inside I'm giddy a little. Yeah.
Well, we had to reschedule this and reschedule this and reschedule this, and finally we're here. And life happens. 2022 has been the year of the big sick, so for me, and it's been a struggle. But the reason we wanted to have this podcast here is we want to still continue this. This is an ongoing thing. We want to stay committed to it. So today's theme, we don't have a script. We're going to riff like we did the last session, and we're going to focus on how to stay inspired, because that's one of the biggest things that has helped me, keep flowing, keep going, is basically sticking to staying inspired, knowing that, there is an end to all of this somewhere, hopefully, and just never letting that hope go. So that's where I am. I have my own stuff that I want to cover as far as staying inspired, but I wanted to yield the floor to you and one, see how you're doing, but also that would end with how do you stay inspired?
Interesting. Well, start over the first part of the question. How am I doing? Hello, everybody, and all of the channels that are watching us. It's been stressful. It's been exciting. It's been lonely at times. I was fortunate enough that my work, both as an MC and as an advocate, got me out on the field since like last June. So I started traveling over a year ago, which for anybody who's was traveling, getting to the airport, you're masked, you're not really talking to anybody. You get on the plane. If you want to eat or drink anything, you're kind of traumatized. Like, should I do it? And then you're in the hotels, or you go somewhere and you really don't want to go interact with anybody.
Sorry.
It is crazy. Yes, it is crazy. So as much as it was exciting to be back on the field and doing what I love and working on my career, it was stressful because I would come home to Christian and I didn't want to come home sick. So first thing you do is get home, test yourself, make sure everything's fine, make sure that your partner doesn't get sick.
Right. Yep.
But on the positive sides of it, I know it's kind of harsh, and this is part of the spiritual life too, is where other people are not ready to go out, and I was. You kind of just have to be like, okay, well, I feel bad, but I also want to eat.
Right.
So it's been an up and down, but it's been really good. And then the question of the day is, how do I stay inspired? Funny enough, for the people who were watching the pre-show, for those of you that don't know, I wrote a book in 2020, which came out in 2021. Grumpy Bunny and the Colors Game, which is a children's meditation book, good for all ages. My mom passed away in August of 2020, and my publisher passed away in October of 2021. And I just came back from from Philadelphia, from an advocacy conference where there's 120 advocates from different fields from across the country, and watching them and hearing their stories, and having a moment to share about people that passed. It's going to sound a little more morbid than it is. What keeps me inspired is that I'm still here, and that I'm breathing and I can move despite all my own health issues. I'm still able. There you go. I'm still able. That should be a T-shirt right there. That keeps me inspired. And I know sometimes people are like, "Well, is it the stars? Is it the children?" No, it's just that I'm still able to do stuff, and that inspires me to keep going. Does that make sense? Oh, that makes
It does, yeah. And so, going back, and thank you for that. It's I'm still here. I'm still able. And by the way, if you're on TikTok, wherever you are at, wherever you're watching us from, we'll do periodical check-ins and see if there are any sort of questions. Bring in your questions. Let us know. What is it that keeps you inspired? But the fact that you're still able to do things, given all of the things, is an accomplishment, and something that can keep us inspired. But I wanted to go back to, you were expressing loneliness, and you had to wear masks, and you couldn't talk to anyone, and you felt as though you were putting yourself at risk by eating. What was it that was causing the loneliness?
For instance, one of the first trips that I took last year, and I'm going to drop a couple of names here, but working for a pharmaceutical company on a campaign. This is our 4th year, and we're relaunching the website. So they flew us all to New York to take photos, and we had a makeup artist and hair, and like the lights and the music, and it was a very America's Next Top Model moment, which is awesome. The first time that we launched this campaign, we were all in New York together. We had our green room. We were all kind of mingling. We had music and food. This time, because it was in the middle of 2021, there was only one of the ambassadors for the campaign allowed on set at one time.
Yeah.
So it was the makeup artist, the hair person, and just a skeleton crew working with us. Everybody was masked. They weren't allowed to touch you. There was no hugging. So you were rushed into the studio, hair and makeup. Try not to talk too much because I didn't have a mask on because they were trying to put the makeup on. They rush you on set. Do what you need to do. There's a time limit. Get out. Rush them back to the hotel room. Get in your room. Order food, and eat alone. And you're watching TV the whole time. So it was like, this is such a beautiful moment as both an actor and an advocate. It's like, this is wonderful, but you can't share it. Mm-hmm. And mentally, you start feeling a little bit, okay, so I'm alone. I got this. Let's watch TV. And then you're like, I can't go, we can't go down to the bar and share the moment. Yeah. And the loneliness, it's like room service. It starts creeping in, and you're like, dang, like as much fun as today was, I can't share it. Yeah. Does that make sense?
It does. And this is kind of unrelated, but seems relevant. As a Freudian, if something pops into my head, I have to express it.
Of course.
It's usually helpful. But did you ever watch the film Into the Wild?
Yes.
So I always cite when people talk about loneliness and we talk about what causes it and those sorts of things. There was a tragic lesson that he learned, and he wrote it in his diary. Christian McCandless. It was happiness only real when shared.
Mm.
And it delves into social psychology, where we are social animals. There's a lot of I don't want this to be too academic, but I'll bring it out anyway. But you know, you have the introverts, you have the extroverts, and the ambiverts, and the introverts are usually perceived as antisocial people, but they're not. They just, you know, an introvert is exhausted usually by social experiences, but they still want to have the social experiences, right?
Right.
An extrovert is engaged and excited about social experiences. An ambivert obviously is a little bit of both, give or take. So anyway, the whole explanation is that we live and we cultivate and we feed off of introverted or whether or not we're extroverted, and we are social animals, and we have to share our experiences. I mean, just look at all the social medias that we're on right now. You know, it's like we have to be able to share our experience, otherwise we do get lonely. Now, not to say that there's anything wrong with being alone, because we do, you know, the introverts will speak to this where, you know, we do need that alone time. We need that time with ourselves. I'll quote another philosopher, Jean-Paul Sartre, had a quote. He said, if you're lonely when you're alone, you're in bad company. So we are social animals, but at the same time, you know, I've always tried to inspire people to be able to sit with themselves and be happy with them. Not happy, but, you know, satisfied with themselves. Right. So like self-love and self-care is sort of preeminent of that. But self-love and self-care, I always encourage clients to focus on that first before they spread and share and try to share the happiness, because if the self-care relationship and the self-love relationship is not grounded, then they're gonna spread themselves a little bit then when they go out and they spread themselves and they try to be social.
Interesting you say that, because I think we talked about this before. I am on the lower spectrum of agoraphobia, and I like not having to leave my house and being alone. And like, thank you DoorDash and Amazon for deliveries, because they helped me during the lockdown to not leave my house. When I'm in my space and I'm alone, I've never really felt lonely. There's been the occasional moments where it's like, but I can be alone for 3-4 days in my apartment working, and I'm perfectly fine. One day in a hotel, away from home, being part of an activity and not being able to like really do all the activities, and loneliness found its way into the circle. And because I was like, as soon as I was telling that story, I'm like, I know where he's going to go with this. I know where he's.
We've been hanging out with you.
You know, I was like,
we've been doing this too many times.
Where is life coach Tommy going to go with this? I know where he's going to go. But yeah, I did find it interesting that when we're in our comfort zones and you are an introvert and you've got everything you need, loneliness has no place, because we don't have a shelf for it. Mm-hmm. But the moment you go somewhere away and you're not in your comfort zone and you don't know the layout, it all of a sudden you turn around, you're like, there it is, right there, like a little gremlin.
Yeah, well, it seems like, you know, you don't necessarily need the social experience. You know, it seems like you're more on the introverted side, where you don't need the social experience to bring you incredible pleasure like extroverts do. But at the same time, you were in a place, you were sort of given a carrot of social experience that was very limiting, and you wanted kind of a little bit more of that, and you weren't able to get that because of all the limitations.
It's what I would think folks that had to be in the hospital during the lockdown. If you had to go to the hospital when nobody else was allowed, even though you felt scared and sad and fearful, when you go to a hospital, just normal, the amount that it multiplies because you couldn't have anybody there with you. And that's, I think, what, not to compare, and please, for anybody listening, I'm not saying that my story is compared to anybody who's in the hospital, but just spiritually speaking, and the energy is, I'm putting out this energy hoping that somebody replies, and nobody is replying. When I'm home and I'm alone, I send out that energy online to order food, and somebody will come, at least somebody will come to my door and knock, and I know somebody's on the other side. Does that make sense?
It does. Yeah, it does. So heard, so thank you for explaining all that. I was just, curious. I wanted to tap into that. But going back to staying inspired, one of the biggest things that has kept me going and kept me, moving forward is, I've always asked people when it comes to establishing goals, we talk about, what's your goal? How are you going to establish that? And then why do you want to pursue that? What value is that going to bring to your life? And so I've always had a very strong why, and I've always lived that why. And when I say stay inspired, I'm talking about my my weightlifting goals.
Mhm.
Those are my inspiration, and also just to stay in a mental headspace and not give up. Like not to toot my own horn, but I just don't allow this to have its space in my mind. But I feel as though sometimes I'm in a situation where I have an excuse to just sort of throw in the towel and give up, right? Just be like, okay, I'm going to be bedridden. I'm not even going to try. I'm not even going to, I can't go to the gym anymore. If I have they call it a flare up. If I have an autoimmune or an anti-inflammatory flare up and I can't get out of bed, then that's it. This is my life. I'm never going to go to the gym again, ever. But I don't believe that. I can't buy into that until the doctor tells me that I'm disabled and I can't go to the gym. I'm going to stick to this and keep going. And so now I've developed this routine where I can get back into the gym and do all of the things. But there was a time in there where I was going to the gym once a month, and then I just felt like crap the next day and couldn't do anything else. But now it's gotten so routine because I stay inspired to know where and why and what I'm doing. And weightlifting is a huge part of that. I will give myself a little bit of defeatism. Bodybuilding is just not going to be a thing anymore. I had aspirations to become what is it? Interfederation of Body, IFBB or Pro. I can't even remember what it was called. IFBB Pro. Anyways, International Federation of Bodybuilding. So I had aspirations to be a bodybuilder, but then all these health issues just kind of, I aged out of it. It's just not in my cards anymore. However, back in 2021, I was inspired by Olympic weightlifting. So now, because my goals are never simple,
Yes.
I can never sit
Again, know you long enough.
and just, I'm just gonna go to the gym and lift weights. I can't just lift weights. So now I've been training myself to do weightlifting moves and Olympic weightlifting moves. So much so that I'm actually now a member of the Team USA Olympics.
Wow.
I have a really funny story, and I don't want to waste too much time on it, but this is just part of staying inspired and staying the course and keep on going. Their board of directors, some of the board of directors of the Team USA Olympic membership, they're terming out at the end of the year, and so they threw out some titles that were coming available. And there was like coaching titles. There was like a title called grassroots director. There was at-large members, that kind of stuff. I was like, grassroots director, I could do that. I kind of just submitted my resume, submitted my headshot. It's like, whatever, and went on with my life. And I got contacted by them, and they're like, hey, your membership lapsed. We can't consider you for this position unless you pay your members. I was like, oh, I didn't realize the membership lapsed. So I paid up, and then they sent me a questionnaire, and they were like, hey, we need this by 9 a.m. And then over the weekend, they announced, out of hundreds of applicants, they announced the 6 candidates for grassroots director. I'm one of them.
Wow.
So it's like, I wasn't, I was just like, I was kind of bored. I wasn't doing anything. And I was like, here, I'm going to put my name in the hat. I'm not going to get it. That was my mentality.
Right.
But I was like, what if? So just that sort of thing, like just staying inspired, keeping yourself engaged in whatever tools that are out there, whatever it is that you've decided to pursue. There's an organization out there. There's probably a Facebook group regarding it that can help you stay inspired, that can help you engage. Because to your point with the loneliness, or the whole point of the loneliness, is that when it comes to social psychology, um, there are people out there who want to see you succeed. There are people who are in your corner who, I call them accountability partners. In the coaching, I always tell people, you've got to tell people your goals. You've got it, whether it's embarrassing, whether there's a pain behind it, where what if you don't succeed, then you sort of embarrass yourself. I thought that was a question from.
Yeah, I was hoping. I was like, do you have a question?
Yeah.
By the way, anybody listening on,
Yeah.
on my page, if you have any questions about what we're talking about or comments, please
Same
post them.
thing. I'm going to check in on no questions. But anyways, there's a ton of resources, and there's this pain of embarrassment that happens. Like, what if I don't achieve it? Then these people are going to call me out. It's like, it's actually not how it works.
No.
You have people rooting for you. You have close family members, and if they are of the caliber to judge you for not achieving that goal, you might not want those people in your life.
Yeah, don't
So,
rethink your goal. Rethink the people.
yeah.
But I'm so proud of you, first of all, for that, because you're exactly what I tell people on the spiritual side when they come to me and they say, "Well, I had a dream before I got married, or before I had kids, or before I went into this job, and now I'm separated, I'm divorced, my kids have gone off to college, whatever the situation, but I don't think I can I don't think I can pick up my dreams again." And I tell them, no, you can't have that dream anymore, because that was the dream of a 18, 19, 25-year-old, 30-year-old person. You're now 40, 45, 50. Adjust the dream to somebody your age and go for it. I mean, we've seen people in their 60s, 70s, 80s who are competing and lifting weights. So if you were my client, I'd be like, no, you may not go and compete against 19, 20-year-old little kids that are starting off, but you can adjust your dream and still dream it. It's still your dream. And those of us watching you in your corner are going to be like, wherever you get, we're happy and we're proud for you.
Yeah.
It's not our dream or our goal, so we don't know what's. And I say this to people all the time: what's in our minds as far as dreams and goals is not always what we say to people. We always underplay it to the world so that we have something bigger to aspire to. And I think that's awesome, because I know I have dreams and goals that people know a quarter or 3/4 of it. And then when I do more, people are like, oh, wow, like you reached your goal plus. I'm like, yeah. Do we do that for vanity or for ego or to lift our spirits? Spiritual coach, maybe. But I think nobody's going to want it more than us. We're a dream and a goal have adjustment valves. You can change them and move them. But I think the unrealistic and the hurtful or harmful part of it is to try, for me at 51, to reach the goals of 25-year-old Daniel. Because it's not possible. I've grown, I've experienced, my body has changed, but I can accomplish maybe even better things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that would be the limit. If you want to limit your dreams, then you limit the outcomes.
Yeah.
Ooh, put that on a t-shirt right there.
Right. Well, I mean, there's one thing that I always remember, and it becomes more real the older I get, is that, there's always the the aging mentality. If I knew then what I know now, and the tragedy is that you're never gonna know then what you know now, ever. Even if you knew then what you know now, you would have zero experience to back up the knowledge. And so it had to happen the way it is to get you to where you are today. And so, to your point, you said, now I can do better things. You can do things, you have a different mental capacity that can handle things that 25-year-old Daniel couldn't.
Yeah.
Emotional things, mental fortitude, talking to people in ways that, 25-year-old Daniel wouldn't have known how to. Understanding another person's, position and another person's situation. I assume, and I'll just ask, 25-year-old Daniel probably wasn't a spiritual coach. Is that...
25-year Daniel didn't even know what spiritual, how to spell it.
Right.
Never mind practicing anything. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's some things that I wanted to share of what you were saying. You know, well, for the record, 43 years old is the oldest Olympic weightlifter. I'm 41. By summer 2024, I will be 43.
Yes.
So I'll be in Paris competing.
We said it right here, folks. We said it right here.
So I have just over a year for my first competition will be December 2023. So I have just over a year to place and then work my butt off to get to Paris.
I'm excited.
So
I'm
we'll
excited
see.
just to know you right now. This is so cool.
We'll see.
For those of you, again, recorded on this
Right.
day. Just,
Right. I don't even have to get to Paris. Just to be able to compete locally or regionally, whatever. Paris would be.
Before you continue,
cool.
I just want to footnote. The fact that you are acknowledging every step of the way and giving it its success and its victory, to me, from my point of view, is if you're building like a stairway for a 2-story house and that first step is weak, you can't build the rest.
Right.
So you got to give it that success. Hey, I made it here. I built it. The foundation. Now I can move to the second step.
Yeah.
So
And that's what I'm doing. Like right now, I'm just pre-training, and then in December, that gives me a whole year to train, to fully train before my first competition. So
I'm excited. I got giddy.
We'll see. You know, but there was something that you said about the person who, you know, divorced and the kids have left and that sort of stuff. And I just wanted to take a moment and talk, you know, everyone has their own, what I'm learning is that everyone has their own perception of children, of how children take part in a parent's life. Everyone has their own perception. From my personal, I'm going to sound judgmental when I say this, there are weak parents and there are strong parents. There are abusive parents and there are apathetic parents.
I agree with
there's
that.
a whole wavelength of parental units. And again, I don't want to pass any judgment towards, you know, it was a client of yours? Or was it
Yeah,
a friend?
and I've had several people that come to me as like, this has changed in my life, and we do a session, and we'll get to the dreams part, and they're like, well, I could never go back to that, and I tell them, you're right, you can't, and sometimes they get that look on their face like, aren't you supposed to be supportive? And I'm like, I'm not supportive. I'm just not supporting your dreams from 10 years ago. What are they now? Can we adjust them? So
Right.
that's
Yeah. So kind of unrelated, but it reminded me of when my daughter was born. There was a friend of mine who was checking in, and you know, I sent her pictures of my daughter and everything, and she said, "So, are you going to steal the job?" And she said it
I remember that.
She said it from a
You
place
told
of
me that,
love.
yeah.
Yeah, she said it from a place of love. She wasn't trying to be, you know, insulting or offensive, but I said to her that my goal is to always inspire my daughter. So it's like doing the real job. You know, obviously I want to put food on the table and, you know, have savings and investments and provide for her education, that sort of thing. But you know, I think that it's important to always. Again, this is my personal thing, but not only to stay inspired, but to provide inspiration. And that's kind of one of my life purposes, is to provide inspiration, and to provide inspiration to her, and to continue, like, I'm not going to, you know, make this all about my daughter, and although she's a huge part of my life, but you know, she goes out and she smiles at people and she waves at people, she laughs at people, and it lights their day up. I watch somebody walking down the street, and it's like, you know, they're kind of just walking and they're kind of in their thing, and then she's like, "Hi," and then all of a sudden their face lights up, and it's like, I created something good. And so I want to cultivate that personality, inspire that personality, and hopefully, you know, never do anything to, you know, and I want to fight all the demons that are out there that are going to tell her that she's dumb and that she's stupid and why is she acting like that. You know, I'm hoping that, you know, she has this perpetual naivete where it's like, what's wrong with you?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So anyways, the whole point of that is, you know, I think it's important to, even though the kids are gone, even though they're, you know, that you're in that situation, that the you're still living to inspire. Just because your kids have graduated, your kids are out of the house. I don't know. This is and I would probably have a different conversation if I were with your client, but I feel like there's some source there. There's a resource there to keep inspiring. And I cannot remember what you said, but there was something that you were saying about perception of how we view things and things that happen to us. And I was listening to an audiobook, and he quoted Shakespeare, and Shakespeare said, "There's nothing good or bad, but thinking makes it so."
Yes.
So,
Yes.
yeah, I
Because,
can't remember what that was connected to, but I wanted to make sure that that was heard.
Because spiritually speaking, like for instance, and for everybody watching and or listening, this is what today's show is about. It's just ripping off the idea. I would say to you, it's like bad things will happen to her. People will tease her. People will harass her. Somebody on the same day, one person would tell her how smart she is, and somebody would tell her how dumb. But
I will kill every single one of them.
of course, no, and I would expect you to. For anybody out there, be warned. Yes.
Whatever happened to Tommy? Oh, he's serving 20 years in
Yeah,
prison right now.
he's running from the law right now. But connect that to what we talked about earlier. Would we? Because I've been asked that question, especially when we talk about HIV. Would I go back to me before HIV? And I'm like, no. And people kind of argue with me. I'm like, it's made me who I am today, and it's given me the career that I have today. My biggest, for everybody out there, I subcontract and I'm a consultant for several things, but my biggest thing right now is to consult in the HIV community and for companies. And I'm doing quite well, and my name is out there, and my reputation is growing. And so would I go back and change that, knowing what I know now? Probably not. If my mom was here and you asked her that question, she would probably say, as a parent, yes, I would go back to that day when he got infected and change that moment. But that's her perception of how my life should be.
Yeah.
So as a parent, I'm with you. Like, yes, we were, and I get that now because we were just asked a couple of months ago to be godparents to a friend's little boy. And Christian and I are very excited about this. We've already warned them that we're going to spoil them to no end, and that we're going to teach them everything we know, good and bad. Right. And they've already warned us that we're going to be watched very carefully. But I would hope, and the reason what we said to them is, I hope that when he is ready to go out into the world by himself, he can look back on the things that we showed him or that we had him learn, good and bad, and he does the best thing he can with those. And I think that's what parents wanted for us. I'm sure that's what you want for your kid. It's like, hey, Sophia, like, go and be amazing. Yeah. But somewhere down the line, you're going to trip and you're going to fall. Yeah. And when you do, learn from you right now that although you've tripped and fell health-wise, which is not literally, that you're getting back up and you're doing the best you can. And that's, I mean, does that make sense? I don't know. And that is inspiring.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you know.
Oh, see how I brought it back to the word?
Right, staying inspired.
There you go.
You know, it's, while you were talking and I was listening, I was thinking about the social dynamics of just everyone, every single human being in this entire world. Doesn't matter if you're Ukrainian, Nicaraguan, Hispanic, if you're from El Salvador, if you're from Canada, or New York City or Texas. Well, Texas is different, but just kidding. Having lived there, we know. So,
I was just there 2 weeks ago. So.
I'm going there actually Thursday, going to Houston. So, anyways, so there's a whole point to this, and I'm just going to go off on a little tangent. You know, there's always this dream that people have, some people have, where they're going to go off into a cabin in the woods, have peace, and get to know themselves, right? They're going to go off, and they're going to read a lot of books, and they're just going to be by themselves, and sort of a Thoreauvian sort of, adventure, what have you. By the way, anyways, I won't go into Henry David Thoreau, but he'll anyways, So it is impossible to get to know yourself without other people, because who you are is built by the social. Who you are is built by whom you interact with, and it's just the way it is. It's in our DNA. It's in it's in our evolutionary biology. It's in everything, and so it's actually obviously there are mental illnesses, there are there are insanities. To go on the really dark side, it is completely insane for suicide is completely insane because it is our primitive evolutionary biology to preserve ourselves. We're the only animal on this earth capable of suicide because every animal on this earth wants to survive.
Yeah.
And we all have an instinctual survival mechanism. And so to go against that causes an insane, situation. So you're insane to want to kill yourself. Side note, I love, I believe it's 988. Is that the new 3-digit number for
Yes.
suicide? Love that. I keep wanting to, because I do have some, every now and then I get a client that has, I can sense they have suicide ideation and I want to give that to them, but I want to call the number myself. Anyways, total side tangent. So all of that to say is that in order to really stay inspired, really have to put ourselves in the presence of other people.
Yeah.
And we have to, that's how we get to know people. And there are mental illnesses like social anxiety, antisocial behavior, introversion to a level that's unhealthy, where you're just completely, agoraphobia is another one. It's got the phobia attached to it. So there's all these things, and we are built, and there was, probably wouldn't surprise you, I'm a member of the American Psychological Association, and in one of their journal articles, there was like these different, I'm getting really academic, but there was these different diagrams of social influence. And there was like one, and I almost feel like I should have a dry erase board to describe it, but there was like,
Next time, folks.
Right.
Next time.
there were circles within circles, and there were circles that were connecting with one lines and everything, and then there were like a plethora of circles with one another. And I sat down with my wife Amanda, and I was like, none of these are right, because this isn't right, because it's indicating that this that the social dynamic is circular, but it's actually spherical. It's like you can't portray social dynamic behavior on a two-dimensional surface. It has to be three-dimensional, because this thing over here can affect this thing over here in a multitude of ways, but it also can be self-referential, because it can also bounce back and affect its origin, because it's because that's if I inspire you and the inspiration I gave you evolves into something else that inspires me. So like we're going back and forth and inspiring each other through our social
I
dynamics.
see where you're going with this,
So,
Kirby. I see where you're going with this.
all of that to say that I got super academic just to tell you that I heard you when you said that I got super academic just to tell you that I heard you when you said that my daughter needs to go through some crap in order to develop herself. So, anyways.
But no, validating what you were validating for. See how we work here, folks. We're just that's how we grow our egos between each other. One of the best ways, now that I'm traveling a lot more in the last year and a half, one of the has been in an airport. From the moment I get off the Uber or Christian drops me off, and I'm in this jungle of people, and there is hierarchies, and there's people in power and people in control, and he who holds the microphone has the most power. And then we're navigating with each other when we start forming lines. Who's going to go first? Is it ladies first, or is it every man for himself? And when you sit there and you're waiting, because I'm a 2 hour before person.
Yeah.
Like if
4 hour.
I-
I'm a 4 hour before set up at the lounge. type of
There you
person,
go.
And get some work done.
If like I will get there as soon as I can. Like I've been to LAX before even the coffee shop is open.
Sure.
But you know it. And then you see as people arrive, who gets there first, who gets there last. Well, I was here first, and you saw me here first, so I should be in line when they call my group.
Yep.
And all these dynamics that happen. But when you're there alone and you're working, and you're just, even though you're surrounded by thousands of people, you are in your own space, and the things that run through your mind. Because I don't know about anybody else, but for me, it's like, who's going to be next to me? Will I get somebody in the middle? I always get an aisle seat. I will pay extra for an aisle seat. But who's going to sit next to me? Will the middle seat be empty? What's going to happen? What's going to happen with the plane? Oh, shoot. The weather just said that there's a lot of wind. How is it? But your mind will take you on these journeys of what ifs that can get really, I mean, it can get sloppy and go down a hill really quick. But then it can also, when you're going to a destination that you really want to go, like when I was going to go see my sister.
Right.
Like, everything's going to be great. Even though I'm going to get there at 11 o'clock, I know that she will drive me to Whataburger, and we're going to get a burger before I get home. And it just, but you know what I mean? Like, I feel like to really know yourself, you're talking about the cabin. I'm like, I would last a day in a cabin,
Right.
and I would read the front page of the book before I was like, I need to go do something. I need something. But
Yeah.
put me in the middle of an airport, and I am so into myself. Like, what are you feeling? And the conversations that I have with myself is like, so what's going on, Garza? Like, where's that pain from coming from? Oh, that thing you said at the meeting, you shouldn't have said that. Oh man, I should have said this instead. And then I'm reprogramming for the next. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So interesting how some people might choose the cabin. I'd be like,
Yeah.
am I delivering something? Because I'm not gonna last long.
Right. Well, it's and I want to make kind of a lesson that's totally unrelated, but I promise relevant. And I notice you have some cards here, and I imagine you want to go through these cards. But so Henry David Thoreau, are you familiar with his story and his?
I've heard the name, but I haven't read all about him.
So Henry David Thoreau was the inspiration for Christopher McCandless on Into the Wild.
Okay.
He was a devout reader of Henry David Thoreau, and Thoreau was, he was Jeffersonian in the sense where Americans should be self-sufficient and not rely on too many things. And so he actually went out and got rocks and stones and like built a very small house for himself from the ground up on his own. Excuse me, with the last remaining money that he had. And so Christopher McCandless got inspired by that and went out into the wild and died. Because the thing he missed, Christopher McCandless missed, is that Henry David Thoreau didn't build this thing from the ground up and then lock himself up away from society. He literally lived 30 minutes walking distance from the local city. So he would go and he would retreat and he would be by himself, but he would walk into the city and hang out with people and drink with them and, cavort and whatever. And then he would walk away and then he would go home and he'd be, by himself and with his own mind. So Christopher McCandless got the message wrong, and Thoreauvians usually miss that part of it, that he wasn't just locking himself away in a cabin for an indefinite period of time. It was 2 years that he did this. He had a social outlet. He needed that social outlet.
Got it.
You cannot have that antisocial space unless you are mentally ill. That you're completely antisocial. That you could have a diagnosis of antisocial. It's part of the. I'm not going to say it. I was going to get really academic, but it's a clinical disorder. And so, anyways, it's So I just wanted to make sure that whoever's listening, whoever's watching, and they're inspired by Thoreau, just make sure your inspiration is accurate, so that you're being inspired by the right things.
And it's I'm not gonna get too off the spiritual stuff. But it's kind of like when people read the Bible, and you only take the parts that benefit you to prove your point.
Yeah.
But you leave out the parts that would contradict it. I think we all do that. I mean, even in spirituality, it's when you're meditating, or when you go into a self meditation and the messages from spirit or the universe say stop it, and you don't agree with it. You're like, I'll stop next week.
Right.
I'll stop in the
Fine.
next meditation.
Right, right, yeah,
So,
exactly. So,
yeah.
anyway, so we've got about 10 minutes left. TikTok has not been nice to us. I guess they don't like that we're doing a podcast. It's been zero this
Oh,
whole time.
how
Yeah.
dare they?
We've had people join and leave, but there's usually like, when I do like a live TikTok and I'm addressing the camera, I get like 150 people in here and
Oh.
they're like asking questions. That's what I was hoping. But TikTok algorithms are like, they know, like somebody's watching us right now. Like somebody who works for TikTok is watching us right now. It's like, they're not going to get podcasts. Whatever.
They're being selfish and keeping the lesson for themselves.
Yep, exactly. So anyway, so you have cards.
So
What's going on?
for everybody, we talked about this the last time that I was working on my own spiritual coaching style, which is called the alignment, which has a little bit of life coaching, has a little bit of spiritual coaching all into one. And with that comes a deck of cards that I'm still yet to publish because we haven't found the right publisher for it. But for those of you watching today, if you want a little spiritual coaching exercise, here are the 7 cards of the 7 words to work on for this week.
Got it.
So number 1, and we're starting from the bottom up, on your root chakra, your foundation, are you being grounded? So I laughed when
Can I
you
show
said
this to the
grounded.
camera?
Yeah, of course. Some of these are
This is
smaller than they have to be, but I'm
Grounded.
still working on. Remember, this is a prototype, folks. These were made at home with tape. But
Grounded.
your foundation, your root chakra, are you being grounded? In your sacral chakra, in your balance, are you working on your creativity? So are you staying grounded? Are you being creative?
Creativity.
In your solar plex, which is your gut feelings and your intuitions, are you trusting your motivation? Is your motivation correct? And are you believing in the motivation that is pushing you forward? On the heart chakra, or the
Motivation.
the intake office for everybody is our heart. Are you being compassionate towards yourself and other people? Because sometimes we're not. Sometimes we push ourselves too hard,
Compassion.
and things get a little hard. On our throat chakra, or our voice, and for everybody out there, the voice is meant to be first for me. Am I speaking to myself first and then to others? How is your communication lately? Are you communicating to yourself the things that you need to keep you going? We talk about linguistics a lot on the show.
Yep.
Are you using your linguistics for yourself, for the better, not for the worse? Number 6, which is the brow chakra.
I didn't show this. in the camera.
The brow chakra is your dreams and goals. Talking about dreams and goals. Do you have a strategy to get to to complete your dreams and reach your goals? And then finally, the 7th chakra, or the final level, is your crown chakra, or your connection to the world. Are you understanding what's really happening out there? So, the way that this works when my clients work with me and we do a whole alignment, this is a 1-session alignment, is, are you understanding the strategies that you have, and are you communicating them to yourselves accurately? Are you having compassion for yourself so you can feel motivated to be creative and stay grounded?
Nice.
And there is your alignment for the week.
Cool. Well, I will, as a life coach, I will step in and basically, obviously you need to be grounded, but this is the one thing that's really shining out at me. These, not, I mean, you've got
No, go
your
for it.
thing, but so these are all very important, all very important. But I think with where my life coaching comes in, I focus a lot on self-care, self-love, and communication is, communication and compassion. Compassionate communication. Essentially, the communication we have with ourselves is going to affect, the communication that you have with people. If you hate yourself, if you're toxic with yourself, if you're abusive towards yourself, you're probably going to be acting that way to other people. But if you love yourself, if you're completely confident with yourself, if you remain inspired, you're probably going to contage that. I guess I shouldn't say contage, but you're in this post-pandemic world, but you're probably going to spread that. I can't do that.
There's no other word for us.
You're probably going to inspire that sort of attitude onto other people.
Yeah.
And so I always encourage every single one of my clients will go through these two cards before. This will be my in order to get to this and to travel through all of these. We start here. I check in if this is where I think it should be, and I can use that in this space. I would never tell a client that this is, I don't think you're communicating with yourself the way you should be, because people love hearing the way things. They love hearing someone else tell them the way their life should be. But if I see that this needs work, this is where our focus is going to be before we focus on anything else.
Interesting.
But
that's a very cool. No. And this is the first time that somebody else has utilized to see how they work for them. So once they get published, those we'll be having them for sale. But
Nice.
this is the idea of the alignment.
Awesome. It's a beautiful idea. I can't wait to see it get published, and I will buy something and use it contextually and cerebrally with my clients, because I can't right now. Maybe if I sat with it, I can't think of anything outside of these items that would be important for a coaching relationship. I'm trying to, my gears are spinning, but cerebrally, I would use this on the client. I wouldn't pull out the cards unless I felt it was useful for them, because, and this is just coming from Life Coach, some people, you give them something and it just kind of goes over their head. And I have to sort of get permission from my clients to give them something. I always ask people if I feel like somebody would find a book useful. I never say, "Oh, you should read this book," because they're never going to read it.
Right.
If I tell someone you should read this book, they're never going to read it. But if I say, if I recommended a book to you, would you read it? I usually get the responses like, "Yeah, sure, anything you would recommend." It's like, read this book.
Yeah.
In fact, I'll buy it for you.
And that's the interesting part, because
really...
in my career, it starts with card readings. It's about the spirituality, and the best way to get a message to my clients is, let's do a reading. But if I can combine some logic into the spirituality,
for sure,
then they get it. But if you come to me, there's a lot of writing.
Yep.
It's an hour of writing and questions and hopefully some crying, because we're making breakthroughs.
Right.
And then there's homework.
Yep.
So, but that's what I love working with you, because we have such different styles that I learned something from you.
Yeah.
I mean, I would never say it in public. But.
Right. And I learned stuff from you. And, I'll end on this note that you said, I hope we're crying. I love it when my clients cry, because it means they're growing.
Yes.
And I always thought, I always had this thing, I've never read it anywhere, but I swear to God, it's probably part of a therapist training to get their clients to cry. I feel like therapists are satisfied when their clients cry, and there's actual psychological proof that it's healing when you cry. So I will just send that message out to everyone. Never underestimate the power of crying.
The only time that it backfires a little is when I get hired to do events, and everybody, there's music and there's partying going on, and there's a person crying at my table. That's not... That is not such a good thing to do.
Sure,
but hey, that's what they pay me for.
So where can people reach you?
Easiest email to get me. Easiest email is danielggarza@hotmail.com. I know people are like, Hotmail? But hey, it's my name. So danielggarza@hotmail.com, and you can just find me there.
Cool. Do you have a website yet?
Yes, littlemexicanproductions.com. LILMESICAN Productions, all one word, .com.
Great. And then you can reach me, Life Coach Tommy, at support@lifecoachtommy.com. You can follow me on TikTok. I'm at Life Coach Tommy. I was going to say .com. It's just at Life Coach Tommy. And my website is lifecoachtommy.com. So thanks for joining us. I hope you stay inspired. Any final thought?
It's great to be back.
Yeah. All right. Till next time.